new housing schemes. Here they were promised a new Glasgow, cleaner, better planned, safer. One man who appeared to embody this new, optimistic era was Arthur Thompson. By the 60s, he was the model of an ambitious, modern businessman.
Ideal client to deal with, always very smartly dressed. I never had him swear in my life. I had many dealings with him in my office, and they were all reasonable. Yeah, I found him a reasonable person.
But Thompson's business-like appearance was a front for criminal activity. He diversified into money lending, ran illegal casinos, and became involved in legitimate businesses too, like scrapyards and pubs. In the process, he earned the nickname Bomber Thompson.
When he tried to take over a few of the kind of establishments around about Black Hill and stuff, such as a gambling club and a pub, he'd actually been refused. The owners had decided not to sell to him, so he'd blown them up. This guy was a dangerous, dangerous man.
The police needed new methods to keep tabs on serious criminals like Thompson. Employing the latest technology, they learned just how far his horizons now stretched.
He was one of the first who was subject to a telephone tap. So this telephone tap showed he was in contact with the Krays, and he actually flew down to London, took the business flight down in the morning to do some business for them. He was an enforcer, so he would either be harming somebody very badly or perhaps killing them. That's the level that Arthur Thompson worked at in these days.
Arthur Thompson was now widely feared throughout Britain's underworld. Few dared mess with him or his business interests. But in May 1966, two men argued with a bookmaker under Thompson's protection over just a few pennies. Within half an hour, both were dead. Cop Joe Jackson and his brother John witnessed the two men die from this very spot.
We drove up to this key junction here, and just as we came to it, I saw two cars passing. One was a Jaguar, the other one was a white van. I knew that the Jaguar was being driven by Arthur Thompson. The Jaguar was on the outside and it was forcing the other car in towards the pavement. The van was actually pushed off the road, hit against the railway bridge, wrapped itself around the light stanchion. I ran up towards the car, which was here, and there was two guys still in it, and they were obviously dead. There was no doubt in my mind what I'd seen was a murder, a double murder, and this was caused by Arthur Thompson. There's no doubt about that.
The two victims were James Goldie and Patrick Welsh. Killed, police believed, for simply challenging a bookmaker whom Thompson protected. Thompson was charged with culpable homicide, and Joe Jackson and brother John were now the key witnesses in a case against one of Glasgow's most feared criminals. In other words, they were now in personal danger.
I got a phone call at home from CID telling me that information had been received that Thompson intended to bomb my house and the house of my brother that night. So this was very unusual. It never happened before.
Fearing an attack, Jackson moved his wife and daughter out of their home. 3 months later, a bomb went off, but Jackson wasn't the victim. On the 22nd of August 1966, dynamite was attached beneath Arthur Thompson's car. The following day, he offered to drive his mother-in-law home. The moment he indicated to pull out, the bomb was detonated. Thompson's mother-in-law died instantly, whilst Thompson escaped virtually unscathed, physically and mentally.
If there was an effect on him, it wasn't noticed by me, or indeed by his family. I think they took the matter very well indeed.
So who had planted the bomb? The family of car crash victim Patrick Welsh were obvious suspects. And 3 of them were charged with a revenge attack. Incredibly, both cases came to Glasgow High Court at the same time. In the North Court, Thompson was a defendant, whilst in the South, he was key witness in a murder trial. Not that he was a very good witness. Even when his own mother-in-law had been killed, Thompson didn't like helping the prosecution.
Thompson certainly didn't cooperate with the police as far as giving evidence is concerned for the prosecution. He didn't help the prosecution at all. Don't ask me why, but he had his own reasons, obviously.
Without Thompson's evidence, the case collapsed and no one was convicted. As for the charges against Thompson, a witness dramatically challenged Joe Jackson's account.
He said that the person the driver was not Thompson, must have been someone else. He was a good witness, this chap, and he wasn't a criminal. It's just by Thompson's good luck, in my opinion, that this man happened to be very close to the scene of the crime, and virtually cleared him.
The jury gave a verdict unique to Scottish justice: case not proven, and Arthur Thompson walked free. It is a verdict that still rankles with Joe Jackson today.
The witnesses who were not police officers did not give proper evidence because they had been frightened. They were intimidated. I know Thompson, and as soon as the car was past me, I saw him, recognised him. It was Thompson.
By the late 60s, Glasgow had been transformed. Gleaming housing schemes had replaced many of the old slums. Yet the city's crime problem proved harder to eradicate. The city ranked amongst the world's most violent, and in 1969, a succession of shocking events reinforced the view that Glasgow spelt violence. There was Bible John, a serial killer who murdered 3 young women after nights out at a Glasgow dance hall. He would never be caught. There was the elderly Rachel Ross, beaten to death by masked burglars in front of her terrified husband. And then there was James Griffiths, a suspect in the Ross murder who went berserk when police tried to arrest him at this flat. Armed to the teeth, he fired shots at his arresting officers, then took pot shots at neighbours and passers-by. Next, Griffiths set off on a mad shooting spree across Glasgow. He drove to this pub, where he shot drinker William Hughes dead. He then made for Cay Street and raced to the top of a tenement. Les Brown was one of the first cops on the scene.
And he blasted the bottom half of the door with a shotgun and just crawled through. The door's still intact, or still locked. He proceeded with a rifle to fire shots out of the front into Cay Street and out the back window, the rear window of the house, to a playground swing park.
Police laid siege outside, then sent in 2 brave cops with guns, Ian Smith and Malcolm Finlayson.
Went up to top flat, and as they're standing at the door, James Griffiths appeared in the hallway, and he could see their legs. He knew there was 2 guys standing there, and as he lifted the gun to shoot them, Finlayson fired his revolver through the letterbox, and the bullet hit Griffiths in the shoulder and ricocheted straight through his heart and killed him. Good shot.
The death of James Griffiths was a defining moment in Scottish crime. It was the first time a policeman had shot and killed a suspect. The game of cops and robbers